equality does not apply to those who are legally immature. As per the legal laws of Kant, women don't have any civil independence, which makes them incapable of presenting themselves in a public forum. That means they are not free as per the laws prepared by him, for which reason they are excluded from the enlightenment. As for the civil status of Kant's conception, it is very clear that the importance of civil status likely implies that he would not have supported the inclusion of women in enlightenment. He has not actively supported women's intellectual and civil inclusion, though some scholars debated how rigidly he held this standpoint. This paper will revisit a Kantian perspective of his politics towards his legal subordination of women. It is found that Kant's conception of marriage provides justified grounds to argue the equality of men and women, and how the purpose of marriage is to give equal civil status to both men and women. In his work, Observation on the feeling of the beautiful and sublime, he noted that women are self-possessed and elegant at a very early age, and also not found of deep reflection and laborious learning. Later on, his book Anthropology from a Pragmatic Point of View, he stated that scholarly women use their books somewhat like their watch. That is, they carry one so that it will be seen that they have one, though it is usually not running or not set by the sun. He also stated in the observation that the greatest obstacle that prevents the male sex from returning to a state of happy simplicity is the female sex. We can notice that Kant emphasizes fundamental equality of human beings on the one hand, whereas he portrayed the status of women something different. So this paper will venture into Kant's passion in women by visiting the theory on the conception of the Enlightenment stands for the intellectual process at the state. This sort of discussion has been suggested by J. Skemmit and S. Flycatcher. This paper will discuss why and how Kant excludes women from the Enlightenment. Moreover, Kant's notion of enlightenment is supposed to be the forum of progress of humanity, which must be followed by a special legal framework. In this framework, women are not allowed to be taken into consideration in the public forum. This is what Kant's notion of enlightenment is meant to be. Let's discuss why Kant has excluded women from the Enlightenment. Paul Kleingeld, in her work, has been said that by Kant's use of gender-neutral language, Kleingeld stated that Kant's moral and political philosophy out of hand is thoroughly misogynist. So if we suppose women are not a rational being by considering Kant's standpoint, they may not be afford the freedom of the will. That means their activities are beyond self-generated, which would be dependent on external causes by their instincts, like non-human animals. The reason is the ability of creature to extend the rules and ends of the use of all of its power beyond its instincts. And reason no limits is the scope of project. They may not even have intrinsic value. So the fair sex has just as much understanding as the male, only it is a beautiful understanding. Kant's conception of marriage is mentioned in his work Doctrine of Right as the union of two persons of different senses for lifelong possession of each other's sexual attributes. This marriage as the union is a contract between two persons, and because they are sharing the mutual attainment. Kant has used the term person in the legal sense before the same work of is a person is a subject whose action can be imputed to him. Moral personality is there for nothing other than the freedom of a rational being under moral laws. The moral law is carried by both genders equally as they are rational beings. In the term person means to both men and women, which is why they are rational beings as well. That means women are share the same reasons like other human species. They're allowed to do critical philosophy like men as well. So Kleingeld found that to support Kant's standpoint and said that Kant has used gender-neutral language such as humanity or human being instead of general terms like mankind or man, which is why he is not a hater of women. Apart from all different standpoints made on Kant's conception on women, we cannot deny that he has accepted women as a main member of human species. So there are three reasons which are the main barrier to women's use of reason, which may be the reason behind women into Kant's conception of enlightenment. It should be analyzed properly to understand the real reason behind it. The first reason in women is women's use of reason is based on their character. The first concerned Kant women's character in a way that they are not capable of exercising reason. In his work Observation, he noted that he does not possess any sort of belief that women are not capable of pursuing abstract speculation or they are capable of practicing scholarly work, although they can do so. In his same work, he also stated that women's philosophical wisdom is not reasoning but sentiment. That women will avoid evil not because it is unjust, but because it is ugly. And for them, virtuous action means those are ethically beautiful. And for him, it is not easy to believe that women can use principles. Some specific qualities they possess, such as good-heartedness and compassion, but also possess specific qualities like fear, weakness, modesty, such and such. It is mentioned in his book Anthropology. So belong to the character, these qualities belong to the woman. For this reason, women are not supposed to be moral way and truly able to follow moral laws. As for Moller Oken stated, their actions are planned by the sentiment, not by reasons. So in this doctrine of right, that is the first part of the metaphysics of morals, Kant argues of the legal subordination of women as passive citizens. They are deprived of civil independence. I come to the conclusion that Kant's account of marriage provides ground to argue for the legal equality of men and women, and that his argument would be strengthened by granting equal status to men and women, and thus revisiting his own views on the legal subordination of women. In doing so, I hope to show that the inclusion of women within the Enlightenment made possible through their legal equality would be consistent with some of the core ideas of Kant's practical philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. How Kant made it Kant is a bad child.
Nobody can ignore.
And that's in her paper, she also concluded in session. She identified the particular reasons. Right? There's also basics. There is a metaphysical issue, according to the Kant also. There is an aesthetic sense, it is a metaphysical issue. But people identify, like why the way of accepting the law, like the aesthetic sense is also accepted by the Kant at the time. I think this paper is anyone to ask any questions. Sir?
Kant's contemporary Schopenhauer, he was also a that. Unfortunately, he had developed an illicit relation with the woman, and a child was born, not child. She passed away. So that was a very great credit to philosopher Schopenhauer. But he defined woman. When you say a first sex, Schopenhauer said, no, we are first sex. But they are undersides, right? They are sorted. So he categorized it in an ugly face. So they are not first sex. Okay. So woman is born as a ugly monster. Don't mind.
No,
It is
sir.
not my feeling or my words. I just
I can understand.
So they were all misogynists.
Yes.
Misogynist is a person who has women. Now coming to Kant. Kant never married. He was about to marry a woman, but he took a lot of time to decide to marry or not to marry. And ultimately, while delaying the decision, the fortunate girl married another person on the locality. So Kant was disappointed. And the second one, he wanted to propose a woman of his church, but he had no guts. The man who could throw light on several dark areas of philosophy could not know what does a woman want. Therefore, the second one was lost. Now, as you say, you come down to the philosophy of the right of a woman. Woman usually sits to our left side, Ardhangeli, and she has a right to sit on the left side of the altar, vertically. So, what right do you want? Equality of status, equality in income, same work, same pay, same platform is given to you. Any freedom on escorted by man because he is something for our Yudhishthir asks the great grandfather, Dharmaraj, I mean, Vishnu, what is the criteria of a good ruler? In the dying stage also, Vishnu said, when you think that a woman clad in the ornaments, unescorted by a man, can go around the area at the dead of night and comes back safe, and that is the criteria of a good ruler. India, unfortunately, had two cases in 1913, Nirvaya and R.G. Karvasky. So, what should be the criteria of a company? You expect that as a woman, forget Kant, because they was never married, he could never do the heart of him. Because scriptures say, no pasati nari gurudara. You cannot know the heart of a I don't know whether it is too deep or too shallow, I don't know. So, what should be your, if you are asked to demand it right now, and you have the power to grant, you ask positively what rights you have in mind, so that you live in a sense of dignity as well as equality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So I think there is a place in I think in commando, army commando, women were not allowed because they are not physically capable or something like that. They are not allowed to enter into that field. I think I should suggest they should enter into that field as well, because they are equally capable physically. I think they can handle all the strain. For that reason, they should allow.
Even
Already we are
Even
already
God-
entered into intellectual forum, so I don't think I should demand more.
Even God did not allow women to be followed. Reason was he came to Anand, his disciple. He said, Anand, ask me anything except admitting women to our fold. Later on, he did it. Anand said, what is wrong with you? We are all for equality. No, they don't have the capacity to understand the ethics of the people. I don't know how he wanted to explain, but then they were admitted, and Lord Buddha said in one line, Anand, out of affection for you, I have kept your words, I have admitted women. I wanted that my vision would last for 1500 years. It would be destroyed in 500.
Sir, I think if I have that opportunity to add something to this,
You
so
ask Buddha,
not to, no, I'm not talking about us, about Buddhism, no. So I think we should start reading women philosophers in our syllabus, in PG and UG syllabus.
but they are handful. We don't have money.
We don't have any such thing in our, I think we all will agree with this. We don't have such names in our syllabus.
In my department, all Buddhist scholars are different.
Yes, I have. Like,
Actually, sir, we have to say that
In our syllabus, I'm saying about the syllabus, sir.
syllabus.
We are teaching only male philosophers. Why not women
Another
philosophers?
question?
Right, are women or educated. Suppose the Buddhist studies in connection to women's studies. There, I think it is better to read women of India, not the women of world. As the Christians like this. Suppose in 18th century, according to Kant, that is his particular view. That cannot be accepted universally. Therefore, I think that even in India, Bhagavata, Karki,
Maitri.
similarly, many women we can find in India, they are equally capable than the men. Therefore, we cannot think that they are neglected. If they are neglected, because they are neglected because of this, they are men. So their quality is quite, they are appreciated. So if I see proper fantastic women, particularly in India, all who must study must go on the can to research in our Indian philosophy, but not in case of the Western women. We cannot give importance to Western women, that our own country. That is my view.
Sir, I think what I am trying to say is that we should read Indian women philosophers like Draupadi. Yes, yes. We should add that in our syllabus as well. That is, as Sir said, must have say some demand as a female scholar. So,
Thank you, madam.
thank you so much.
As a feminist, you are right? But
You can write the comment.
the ideas don't have any gender.
Yes, sir. That is.
The ideas don't have any gender. But at the time, the conservative society in Germany, what behind this, we don't know right now.
But still, we are
Anyhow,
following patriarchy in our reading as well.
very nice.
Thank you so much.
There is also nice. Muhammad Sagar Ali. BS College, Daspalla. Oh,
sorry.
very bad. Very bad.
Hello. Esteemed chairperson of the session, respected teachers on the dais and off the dais, fellow participants and lovers of wisdom. I am Muhammad Sagar Malik, lecturer in logic and philosophy from BS College, Daspala, as well as I am a research scholar from Ravenshaw University, Kotak. I am very much thankful for this department of philosophy, Vikram Dev University, for inviting us and uh, letting us to share our thoughts regarding Kant's in different perspectives. Before I start, I would like to say that I do not have extensive knowledge about Kant's, but still I have tried something relating to my PhD thesis on secularism. So if I may make some mistakes, so then do forgive me and rectify me at the same time. So my topic is Kant's liberal secularism. So Immanuel Kant's philosophy is a key contribution to Enlightenment thought, particularly his ideas on liberal secularism. Kant believed that human beings as rational and autonomous individuals should base their actions and beliefs on reason rather than relying on external authorities, including religious institutions. His vision of secularism focuses on balancing personal freedom with collective governance, where morality and politics are guided by rational universal principles. In his essay, What is Enlightenment?, Kant introduces the idea of the public and private use of reason. He argues that individuals should be free to question authority and express their ideas publicly while fulfilling their private responsibilities as citizens. This balance promotes both intellectual freedom and social order, ensuring that rational debate replaces dogma in shaping public life. For Kant, this freedom of thought is essential for human progress and the creation of a just, secular society. Kant's central philosophy, the categorical imperative, is a universal moral principle based on reason. So this ethical framework, which applies equally to all people, transcends religious and cultural differences. It provides a secular foundation for morality, emphasizing dignity, equality, and respect for others. By separating morality from religion, Kant highlights the importance of universal principles that foster cooperation and harmony in diverse societies. Kant's views on religion reflect his secular ideals. In religion, within the bounds of bare reason, within the bound of bare reason, he argues that true religion is about morality rather than rituals or dogmatic beliefs. He advocates for religion to remain a personal matter, supporting ethical behavior without interfering in public governance. Kant's call for the separation of church, or you can say religion, and state is central to his vision of a society where freedom of conscience is protected and all individuals are treated equally, regardless of their religious beliefs. Another key element of Kant's liberal secularism is tolerance. He recognizes the diversity of religious and philosophical beliefs in society and argues that such differences should be respected as long as they do not harm others. For Kant, reason provides a common ground for dialogue and resolving conflicts in multicultural communities. His philosophy offers a practical ways to address modern challenges of coexistence and inclusivity in diverse societies. This paper examines Kant's ideas on secularism through keywords such as religion within the bounds of bare reason and what is enlightenment. It explores their relevance to contemporary debates on the role of religion in public life, the limits of state neutrality, and the need for inclusive governance. By applying Kant's principle, this study demonstrates how his philosophy can help address issues like religious pluralism, equality, and freedom in today's democratic societies. His liberal secularism provides a timeless framework for balancing individual freedom, collective responsibility, and moral equality. His emphasis on reason, autonomy, and tolerance continues to offer valuable insights for building just and inclusive societies in a diverse and interconnected world. So secularism is a key feature of modern democracy, ensuring that government in decisions are based on reason rather than religious authority. Immanuel Kant, one of the most influential philosophers of the Enlightenment, believed that people should use reason to guide their actions instead of relying on religious commands. His ideas promote autonomy, moral reasoning, and the separation of church and state, making them relevant in today's discussions on democracy, governance, and religious freedom. So Kant's ideas on secularism are by examining his views on autonomy, morality, religion, and government. It explores how his philosophy remains important in addressing issues related to religious tolerance, state neutrality, and democratic principles. So Kant believed that real freedom comes from autonomy, the ability to think and act based on rational moral principles rather than external pressures. He argued that human beings are capable of self-governance if they use reason to guide their actions. He emphasized that rationality helps individuals to make ethical decisions based on universal moral values. Morality should not depend on religious beliefs to be fair and applicable to everyone. Laws and policies should be created using reason rather than religious traditions to ensure quality in diverse societies. So this approach is a key to modern secular democracies where laws are made based on logic and fairness rather than religious doctrines. This ensures that all citizens, regardless of their beliefs, are treated equally under the law. So Kant's most important contribution to moral philosophy in the categorical imperative, he says that it serves as a rational foundation for ethical decision making. It states that people should act according to principles that could be universally applied. Individuals should always treat others with respect and dignity, never as a mere tools for personal gain. This approach creates a universal moral system that applies to all individuals regardless of their religion or culture. By basing morality on reason, Kant ensures that ethical values remain objective and fair. In his famous essay, What is Enlightenment?, Kant describes enlightenment as thinking for oneself rather than blindly following authority. He highlights the importance of intellectual freedom and makes a distinction between two types of reason. First one is public use of reason, another one is private use of reason. In public use of reason, he says that the freedom is to express and debate ideas openly. For example, scholars and intellectuals should be able to question religious or political authority without fear. And in private use of reason, he says that the responsibility to follow certain rules in professional roles, like as a government officials or military officers, to maintain order in society. So this distinction ensures both stability and progress in society. While individuals must follow laws in their professional lives, they should still have the freedom to challenge outdated beliefs and advocate for change in public discussions. His defense of intellectual freedom remains a fundamental principle of modern democracies, where open debates and rational discussions help shape policies and social progress. Kant's book, Religion Within the Bounds of Bare Reason, argues that morality should not be based on religious teaching. Instead, he distinguishes between moral religion, which focuses on ethical behavior based on reason, and institutional religion, which relies on rituals, dogma, and religious authorities. He believed that religious faith should be a private matter rather than a basis for government decisions, and ethical values should be based on reason, ensure fairness and universal applicability. Governments should not enforce religious beliefs but should instead protect individual freedoms. These ideas align with modern secular societies, where religious freedom is protected but governance remains neutral and independent of religious influences. His most important contribution to secular thought in his argument that religion and government should remain separate. Religious institutions should not have control over government policies. The state should not enforce religious belief on its citizens. So laws should be based on reason, equality, and human rights, not religious doctrines. So this principle is crucial for ensuring fair treatment of all citizens, regardless of their religious belief. In secular societies, governance is based on rational principles, creating a fair system where all individuals have equal rights and opportunities. Kant's liberal secularism is still highly relevant in today's world as well, especially in discussions on religious freedom, state neutrality, diversity, and tolerance, etc. In religious freedom, where it ensures that people can practice their faith without forcing it on others. In state neutrality, it prevents governments from favoring one religion over others. And in diversity and tolerance, it promotes mutual respect and cooperates among people of different beliefs. In a time where religious and political debates continue to shape society, so his ideas offer a balanced approach that ensures both freedom and fairness. So, Kant's liberal secularism provides a strong foundation for freedom, reason, and tolerance in society. His emphasis on autonomy, moral reasoning, and the separation of religion from governance remain crucial today. By advocating for intellectual freedom, the state neutrality, Kant ensures that governance is fair and inclusive for all individuals, regardless of their beliefs. As societies continues to face challenges related to religion, governance, and human rights, Kant's philosophy offers valuable insights on how to promote justice, inclusivity, and rational decision making. His vision of secularism is not just about limiting religious influence in politics, it is about creating a society where reason and fairness guide decision making, ensuring equal rights and freedoms for all. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Krishna. As far as the European philosophers is concerned, most of the philosophers maintain the balance about the secularism in European philosophy. Even though religious philosophers also maintaining some balance, because of this law, it reflects them the governance. The law makers will be the time to time they are changing, their policies are changing. But the basic philosophy of governance is a different. So in this way, Kant also maintained in a very, that autonomy means not only for the secularistic issues, the autonomy will be taking any kind of decision there. The individual must be autonomy.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and that is a holistic manner to observe the fact. So, anyone, any question?
Thanks for the presentation, sir. So my question is, forget about philosophy. Is there any difference between secular and secularism?
Of course.
Secularism means, this is what I think, is anti-Hinduism, is that?
Okay. Thank you. First, there is a difference between secular and secularism. So it's a Western concept, obviously. So secular means apart from religious. So you don't have to rely on any kind of beliefs. Secular means you always use your own reason. Do not depend on any kind of belief, prejudices, or you don't need to be biased. Or some people are there, no, this is right because I am saying this or he is saying this. No. You should use reason and separate from religious beliefs. That is secular. And the term secularism, where we say that, from the first session, Kailash sir just discuss about Indian secularism and Western secularism. Western secularism is completely separate that religion from the state. So we cannot say church because in India, the majority is Hindu. secularism starts from the Western. Okay. So secularism means ki we have a term in India that Sarva Dharma Saman something. Saman. Okay, thank you. So in secularism, we input religious belief, and we say that every religion should have equal rights. That is secularism. Another question is anti-Hinduism. No, we cannot say that secularism is anti-Hinduism. No, we cannot say that. This is my perspective that I can't say that secularism means anti-Hinduism. Thank you.
Secularism is not at all anti-intellectualism. That's a Karl Marx.
Yes, sir.
So anyone? It is moral feeling and religious feeling. Moral feelings and religious feeling.
Sir.
How there is a lot of difference? Like
Sir, religious beliefs comes from religion, but moral beliefs comes from within, or you can say from reason. Okay, sir. If I say that the purpose is same, then religious. Suppose someone will say that I belong from this religion, and for this you have to do this. But from other religion, sir. In that case, it is right, sir.
So universal religion, according to Vivekananda. That is how things are.
Morality is
The religion is manifestation of already in man. Religion is manifestation of reality already in man. The perception of reality. And education is manifestation of perceptual in man. So religion and education is manifestation of perception and manifestation of divinity in man. See that the religion and the education is different. But I don't find the religion and education value. That is every system also.
Purpose is same, but sir, sometimes somewhere, sir, religious beliefs are biased. But morality, when we apply reason, we cannot be biased. That's the difference. The purpose is same.
Morality is on the smaller cycle compared to the broader view. That's why it is said morality is a good, is a window to possibility.
Is transcendental.
So it is transcendental. So that we are following plan. Your morality will take you up to certain extent, not pure one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So religion, I feel that sir, religion is a small part of morality.
The morality is something big.
Morality is
It shouldn't be coming within the.
Sir, which one is bigger than? I am little bit confused. Either morality or religious beliefs.
Another subject. Now I request. Yes, sir. Vikram Prasad.
Okay, sir. We will discuss it later. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon to one and all. Respected President, sir, on the chair, Vikram Rao, sir, and all the teachers and all the scholarly people of the dais. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak over here. I am R.S. Ambika Prasad, a research scholar from Commonwealth University. I'm a scholar of Friedrich Nietzsche, who is a German philosopher. The part of this paper entitles to talk about a sugar-coated theory of Friedrich Nietzsche dipped inside the butter of Immanuel Kant. The topic name I have selected as a Kantian approach to Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, dwelling in space and time. When I talk about Friedrich Nietzsche, he has proposed a theory of eternal recurrence. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give it a Kantian approach by taking it in a framework of space and time, and it is very well related. So in order to do that, Kantian nutshell to an existential nut. Kant's doctrine of space and time has brought a clarity of thought to perceive the world using agents of noumena and phenomena. Understand it through the realms of realism. Technically, the problem stands out to be are those theories of Kant can be accepted to strengthen the existentialist problem of eternal recurrence and access to the metaphysical problem. So, coming to Kant, according to Kant, the world is divided into two parts. One which we could perceive, and another is beyond our senses. But both constitute the world. When world of noumena and phenomena comes to play, we in the world of noumena understand anything that is free from our senses, created inside our mind, which talks of the object of external world. He, in fact, claims that we cannot know things in their true sense. In the world of phenomena, we can perceive things through space and time. Space and time, part of a priori knowledge that is acquired through reasoning and independent of experience. Kant held the most judgment in natural sciences and all in mathematical sciences were synthetic a priori. Kant did so that some type of order is necessary if we do believe that all our knowledge begins with experience. In reality, Kant was asking this: if space is absolute reality, which Newton claimed it to be, how can we have an a priori knowledge of geometry? Kant believed in objectivity of matter, but he could not bring himself to consider space and time as a material. And coming back to Nietzsche, Nietzsche has talked about a theory of Superman. What a man is possible of being. When we talk about Superman, Superman is a person who is in a constant evolution stage, and everyone can be Superman, but he has to travel through a rope of a bias, which leads to a infinite regress or something like that. But while becoming from a man to Superman, while walking on the rope, he has to go through three metamorphoses. First one, he has to be take a attribute of a camel. Why camel? Camel works in desert and takes all the hardships. It goes through all the problem and deals with all the odds of the desert and still make sure that it reaches its destination. And that resilience to problem adds the attribute of camel to the man. And when that man transcends further, he, after learning all the hardships, he takes the power of lion. Lion is symbol of pride and power. When lion takes power, he has been a ruler. He takes it as an adamant person who tries to segregate the section of the society and try to rule over it and make sure the society moves in his correct direction. And lastly, power is always corrupting. Power by itself is always corrupting. So he has to go through from lion to become a child again, where the person can pursue his own power again, and he can start it all over again. And for that, Nietzsche has proposed a theory of eternal recurrence. What if you are the person who has been the Superman, who has attained all the power, have gone through the three metamorphoses, and you are going for a segregated life, and you are going for a time and again, you are repeating all the way same. So, suppose a devil comes to you at night and asked you, whatever you have done in your life, whatever you have attained in your life will happen again and again. And will you accept that life if same thing repeated in your life again and again? So from there only, the space and time comes into existence, into play. The metaphysical unit of Nietzsche, he talks about the eternal recurrence and says that if the idea of eternal recurrence, if a person goes through the same life, same traumas, same sadness, same grief again and again, will that person accept it? Or he would need a change? That is the real question. And when we talk about the Kant's space and time, it is a dwelling method of space and time, and it needs a lot of explanation. So I don't think so I should take much of your time. So it will take around 10 to 15 minutes to explain that. So this is the idea of my paper.
Very new compared this result here.
Yes.
The essence of the Kant at the entry level and the Nietzsche, the freedom, and the Superman is the engine level. That's it.
Sir, they are actually opposite people. Sir.
Here some features are there.
Yes, sir.
We are trying to explain the.
Yes, sir. Actually, I have to go through that physics and all that, so it will take some time.
So anyone? One or two questions?
In a sense, you can say Kant was the intellectual father of Nietzsche, as well as that is a type of people. Nietzsche fancied that we need a superman, solve all our supplementary problems. His superman was copied by Hegel, and Hegel was the himself that created Hitler, the superman. Revolutionary once you give a definition or a concept, something will happen. Many people copy it in their own way. Hegel is, of course, very well aware that the idea as a dialect starts from one place, as a message, about them that becomes antithesis. And the two quarrel, thesis and antithesis, quarrel, refining each other, and finally completing with synthesis. That synthesis moves around and becomes an idea, a fresh idea. It creates its approach. Synthesis goes again to thesis, beats its opposite and its evolution continues. Till they reach a superman, our cycle of life goes on till we become God. But in this case, it is not God. It is a superman filled with ego, all the nasty sentiments of the human being, and have terminated.
So actually, it's a political theory, Superman, because when we move in a society, society is in a constantly deteriorating manner. So we need a controller of the society. So Nietzsche has proposed the theory of Superman. And yes, sir, Hitler has misleaded that. The Will to Power book has misleaded Hitler like anything. And but the real fact is that it was misleaded by Friedrich Nietzsche's sister, Elizabeth, who has self-edited the book and presented it to Hitler. So that created a very different scenario. If Nietzsche would have been alive, he would have slapped Hitler for claiming that I am Superman or I am the power below. So that is the real fact, sir.
Okay, sir, thank you. Anyone? Now I request Fairness, Punjab.
A very good afternoon to all. Esteemed chairperson of this section and all my co-paper presenters and all the dignitaries of the dais and student friends. I'm Vedavesh Mandal, lecturer in Logic and Philosophy, Salipur Autonomous College. First of all, I thanks to this department and this university, and I also thanks to Dr. Lakshman Patra, organizing secretary, for inviting me to share my views in this occasion. Today, I going to present a paper entitled with Truth in Context, a Kantian distinction of synthetic analytic judgment. Before launch, one paper presenter, Shruti Rekha, has already talked about this distinction. Still, I will talk this distinction from a different angle. In this paper, I have 4 sections. In first sections, I discuss Kant's doctrine of synthetic analytic distinction of judgment. In second section, I discuss Ayer's criticism of this distinction. And in third section, I discuss how Quine reject this distinction, synthetic and analytic, by saying 2 dogmas of empiricism. And in fourth section, that is Kant's response to Ayer and Quine. First of all, know this distinction, synthetic analytic distinction, plays a very central role to the philosophy of David Hume and Leibniz, and also plays a very vital role in the philosophy of Ayer and Quine. As Kant tries to make metaphysics as science, that is transcendental metaphysics, and rejecting traditional metaphysics, that is transcendent metaphysics. To establish scientific metaphysics, he made this distinction between synthetic and analytic judgment. Kant made this distinction on the basis of 2 criteria. One is the criterion of containment, and another criterion is the contradiction. The criterion of containment means predicate concept contains in the subject concept, and contradiction criterion means a proposition or a judgment. When we talk about the opposite of this proposition, if I talk about A is A, and if I talk about A is not A, then A is A became analytic, but A is not A, it's become synthetic. This A is A and A is not A, this distinction of synthetic analytic on the basis of contradiction. But Ayer reject this distinction by saying that the distinction of synthetic analytic face 2 difficulties. One difficulty is regarding the criterion of containment. Containment, he talked about containment means, suppose the water in a glass. This glass contains the water. Here, the water and glass, it's a relation between 2 objects. So how is it possible? Because if we talk about concept used in different sense by different philosophers. Like Locke used concept as an idea, and Hume used concept as an impression of ideas. So on this basis, I reject this distinction because this distinction is a psychological one. And the second difficulty is how is it possible a proposition can be analytical in one place and it became synthetic in another place. For example, 5 plus 7 equal to 12. It's a synthetic proposition. But when we talk about 7 plus 5 equal to 7 plus 5, it's analytical. So how is it possible one proposition in one place is analytical and synthetic in another place? So I reject this distinction. Now I comes to Quine. Quine in his two dogmas of empiricism reject this distinction from three objections. One objection is this distinction only applicable in traditional logic, and second objection is criticizing the self-contradiction, and third rejection on the basis of containment. So from the Quine perspective, how this distinction, because in traditional logic, everything is a form of subject-predicate judgment. But in modern logic, all the judgments are not in the form of subject and predicate form. Like tiger exists. Existence can never be a predicate. So in this statement, how can we make a distinction? Or is it a synthetic judgment or is it an analytic judgment? So Quine and Ayer both reject this distinction. Also, Ayer also belongs to the logical positivist school. So he always tries to eliminate the metaphysics. What kind of metaphysics is it? It does not matter. But in response to Quine and Ayer, Kant mentioned this distinction is not psychological one, but this distinction is logical one. He's talk about this water in a glass. This is a different kind, but when he talk about containment, he talks about containment means predicate at least identical with subject. So this distinction based on logic. As we all know, the three principles of logic, one is the principle of identity. So when we talk about bachelors are unmarried, here unmarried is identical with bachelor. So this distinction is logical. So this is my submission to the gathering. So actually we are not research in this area. My research area is something different. So still I had tried to prepare this paper.
Same concept. Identify message to that. Very nice presentation. Mr. Berger. Anyone? Okay, time 2 minutes are remaining to us.
Louder, louder.
Rules of region, rules of fact. Rules of fact is purely synthetic. Rules of reason is purely analytic. That's why Kant synthetic that means synthetic analytic. Synthetic judgment.
Synthetic a priori judgment means a judgment can be both synthetic as well as a priori. Synthetic means in which this judgment predicate provides something new information regarding subject. But in a priori judgments are true before verification. Like ice is cold. When we speak ice is cold, there is no necessity of verification. But when we speak Ram is a good student, so there is a need of verification. So when Kant talk about synthetic a priori, he mention a proposition can be both synthetic as well as a priori.
The qualifier might be the synthetic employee government of statement legal knowledge begins with science experience, pursuit to understanding and answer to the
That is a perfect example.
Every day the can't correct our definition is same.
Okay, thank you. Rahim, Rahim. In the last paper.
Good afternoon, everyone. Most respected President of the last session, distinguished academics, scholars, and my dear students, friends. I express my sincere gratitude to the Department of Philosophy, Vikram Dev University, for giving me this distinct opportunity to share my thoughts on Immanuel Kant. I also thank the organizing team like Professor Lakshman Patra sir, and Professor Francis Balla sir for their generous invitation to present a paper. Invitation to me to present a paper, and actually I owe a great deal to this institution, this department, and this university, because the intellectual or philosophical journey began from this institution. And another important thing is that I had the distinct opportunity not only to study here, but also to teach here for a short while. So I'm very thankful for all of this. So to begin with, Professor Bertrand Russell once said that I would never die for my beliefs or views or opinions, because I might be wrong. So why did I say that? Because I am of the opinion that while discussing the writings and ideas of giant philosophers like Kant, the possibility of being wrong is higher than the possibility of being right. So I humbly request the enlightened academics and scholars of philosophy to be kind enough to correct me if I am wrong in my interpretation of Kant by giving their valuable inputs. Now, the paradox of Kant's life is that he was both famous as well as infamous. I would not like to deal with why he was famous, because during the last 2 days, all the scholars and academics have already spoken about why he was famous. But I would like to briefly state why he was infamous. Kant was infamous particularly for his so-called unconventional arguments on religious matters. And one of the arguments he offers is that the the freedom of the will, immortality of the soul, and the existence of God, and the existence of a benevolent God could not be proved by reason. That was his argument. So I would like to quote Professor Will Durant. He says that the priests of Germany protested madly against this salvation. and even revenged themselves by calling their dogs Immanuel Kant. And Heine is a famous poet, German poet and author, compared Kant with the terrible Robespierre. Robespierre was a villain figure in the French Revolution. There was a period called Reign of Terror. So he was involved in the large massacre of people. So Heine compared Kant with Robespierre. He says that the latter had merely killed a king and a few thousand Frenchmen, which a German might forgive. But Kant had killed God and undermined the most precious arguments of theology. So this was Kant. Now, the paper, the objective of my paper is to talk about idealism, the Kantian nature of idealism. So, what I'm going to do is that first I will give a general view of idealism. What is idealism in philosophical sense? Then I shall argue for Kant's, or I shall interpret Kant's idealism as a moderate form of idealism rather than a radical or dogmatic form of idealism. Now, before delving into Kantian idealism, it is worth understanding the general meaning of idealism in philosophy. Generally, idealism in philosophy is based on the conviction that the fundamental nature of reality is mental or non-material. In other words, we can say that the external world of objects that we see here are nothing but the representations or copies of our ideas. So this is the general view or general interpretation of idealism in the context of philosophy. So ever since the publication of the first edition of the Critique of Pure Reason, Kant's readers have wondered and debated what exactly the nature of transcendental idealism is, and they develop quite different interpretations. Some interpret transcendental idealism as a form of Berkeleyan idealism, and some other interprets the Kantian idealism as a phenomenological model of, or phenomenology, a kind of phenomenology. And some other groups interpret or claim that they think that it is the Kantian idealism is neither a metaphysical nor a ontological theory at all. So these are the three important issues that we need to keep in our mind. This paper aims to interpret Kant idealism by taking into account the arguments formulated by Kant himself for his notion of idealism. Here I shall make an attempt to justify Kantian idealism as a moderate form of idealism rather than a radical or a dogmatic form of idealism. So to begin with, in the fourth parallelism, Kant defines transcendental idealism in the following manner. I quote, "I understand by the transcendental idealism of all appearances the doctrine that they are all together to be regarded as mere representations and not as things in themselves. And accordingly, that space and time are only sensible forms of our intuition, but not determinations given for themselves or conditions of objects as things in themselves." Now, these definitions or these writings of Kant raises numerous interpretive questions, which may be broadly categorized into three sets of issues. The first one is that the nature of appearances. What is the nature of appearance? And the second one is that what is the nature of things in themselves? And the third one is what is the relationship between the appearances and the things in themselves? So, first question, to address the first question, the nature of appearances. Are they, as Kant sometimes suggests, identical to representations or states of our minds? If so, does Kant follow Berkeley in equating bodies, which is object in space, with ideas, which is representation? If not, what are they, and what relation do they have to our representation of them? The nature of things in themselves. What can we positively say about them? What does it mean that they are not in space and time? How is this claim compatible with the doctrine that we cannot know anything about them? How is the claim that they affect us compatible with that doctrine? Is Kant committed to the existence of things in themselves, or is the concept of a thing in itself merely the concept of a way objects might be? Now, the third interpretive question is that the relation of things in themselves to appearance. Is the appearance or things in itself distinction an ontological one between two different kinds of objects? If not, is it a distinction between two aspects of one and the same kind of object? Or perhaps an adverbial distinction between two different ways of considering the same object? Adverbial distinction considering the same object. Now, I think the best way to begin understanding the transcendental idealism is to look at the other philosophical positions from which Kant distinguished his form of idealism or his model of idealism. In the fourth parallelism, he distinguishes transcendental idealism from transcendental realism. And I quote, to this, transcendental idealism is opposed to transcendental realism, which regards space and time as something given in themselves, independent of our sensibility. The transcendental realist, therefore, represents outer appearances, if the reality is considered, as things in themselves, which would exist independently of us and our sensibility, and thus would also be outside us according to pure concepts of the understanding. Now, transcendental realism, according to this passage, is the view that objects in space and time exist independently of our experience of them. While transcendental idealism denies this point is reiterated later in the Critique when Kant writes, "We have sufficiently proved in the transcendental aesthetic that everything intuited in space or in time, hence all objects of an experience possible for us, are nothing but appearances, mere representations, which, as they are represented as extended being or series of alteration, have outside our thoughts no existence grounded in itself." This doctrine I call transcendentality. This is Kant. The realist. Okay, so I will come to the final section where Kant explicitly mentions about his idealism. Now, there is one further general feature of Kant's transcendental idealism that is worth noting. Given that Kant himself highlights it in different ways and in different places, on multiple occasions, Kant insists that transcendental idealism, despite being called idealism, is somehow less idealist than doctrines that normally fall under that level. When first arguing for his doctrine in the Transcendental Aesthetic, in the A edition of the Critique, Kant makes it clear that he is defending both the transcendental ideality and the empirical reality of space and time. In the Prolegomena, which was published 2 years after the first edition of the Critique and was meant to summarize the main claims and arguments of the critic in a more accessible form, Kant elaborates further on the non-idealist features of his position through remarks dedicated to the issue and the inclusion of a relevant appendix. In this work, in response to initial reaction to his doctrine, which had already seen the light of day, Kant even suggests dropping the term transcendental idealism in favor of terms such as critical and formal idealism, which he thought to be more accurate or less misleading formulation of his actual views. Just 2 minutes, sir. Moreover, in the second revised edition of the Critique, Kant seeks to clarify matters further and to highlight these non-idealist features by making changes and adding footnotes and remarks that directly concern his idealism. In this context, he emphasizes that his claims about spatio-temporal objects as appearances do not amount to the claim that these objects would be mere illusions. He even adds a section called Refutation of Idealism, in which he opposes idealism by addressing questions of external world skepticism to replace the fourth parallelism section of the A edition. Despite their differences, all of Kant's attempts to qualify his idealism points in the same direction. Kantian idealism, at least by intention, supposed to be a moderate brand of idealism to be distinguished from more radical and, in Kant's view, untenable versions thereof. The level formal idealism, which Kant represents as an alternative to transcendental idealism, is informative in this respect. Kant distinguishes between the matter and form of our experience. This is a distinction made in the very first section of the Transcendental Aesthetic, where Kant begins by discussing sensibility and intuitions and making this case for the claim that time and space are their form. The Kantian claims that time and space are transcendentally ideal and that empirical objects are mind-dependent appearances is to be understood as a thesis about the form of our experience. Idealism as a view about the mind dependence of empirical objects is not the whole story, however. With regard to the matter of experience, Kant's view is not meant to be idealist. In a letter to Beck from 1792, Kant reacts to certain criticism. Quote, I speak of ideality in reference to the form of representation, while the critics, these critics actually, Feder and Grape, they have published a paper. Okay. While the critics construe it as ideality with respect to the matter, ideality of the objects and its existence itself.
Thank you. I think Kant never reject any idea. Whenever it comes into the existence, it may be treated as a transcendent. So your paper is enlightened about the idealism of the Kant. It is a very good paper. So only one question, not two questions. Only one question. Anyone? Now time for the valedictory. Vice Chancellor is coming here. Thank you very much for all the participants here. The session is over right now. Thank you very much for the University Department of Philosophy. The community in the class of the actors of the case. Thank you. Thank you very much.